She sat there, alone, at a table meant for 8. Every chair around her was empty, except the one where her ex's new bride had just placed her bouquet. Laughter echoed from across the hall. Champagne glasses clinked. And right there, under the golden chandeliers of the Grand Plaza Ballroom, she realized she had been invited not as a guest, but as a warning. The man she once loved was marrying someone else, and every smiling face around her, they knew exactly who she was. Her heart raced. She shouldn't have come, but leaving now would make her look weak. So she sat still, forcing a smile, while humiliation burned through every inch of her skin. Until a deep voice from behind whispered, "Act like you're with me." She turned. The stranger standing there wore a black suit, confidence like armor, and eyes that could shatter secrets. Who was he? And why did he look like he already knew her name? Before we go further, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from right now? What time is it there? And if you've ever been humiliated and came back stronger, comment, "I did." Make sure you're subscribed, because this story only gets darker from here. 3 days before the wedding, the envelope arrived. Thick ivory paper, gold-pressed letters, her name printed as if nothing had ever gone wrong between them. Miss Lila Hart. She stared at it for hours, unopened, sitting on her kitchen counter beside a half-drunk cup of coffee. No one sends their ex an invitation to their wedding by accident. The handwriting was hers, his fiancée's, neat, practiced, and dripping with pity. Lila turned the envelope over in her hands, again and again, wondering what kind of person thought humiliation could be sealed with wax and tied with ribbon. Maybe she should have thrown it away. Maybe she should have laughed. Instead, she bought a dress, crimson, not out of confidence, but defiance. On the morning of the wedding, she woke before sunrise. She pressed her fingers to the mirror and whispered, "You're not going there to cry." The city outside was still half asleep, mist curling between the skyscrapers. The car ride to the Grand Plaza felt longer than the years she'd spent trying to forget him. As she stepped into the marble lobby, a familiar scent hit her, the same cologne he used to wear. It lingered in the air like a ghost. People turned as she walked past, not because they knew her, but because they could sense something. That quiet, stubborn kind of heartbreak that no dress can hide. The ballroom glittered, chandeliers swayed, laughter filled every corner. She smiled, the kind of smile that hides pain, not joy, and walked toward her table, the one at the edge of the room. Table 12, alone. Her ex, Daniel, was at the center of it all, tuxedo crisp, grin rehearsed. He looked like the kind of man who'd never been left, never lost, never lied. His bride touched his arm, and he leaned in, whispering something that made her laugh. Lila reached for her glass, her hand steady until she noticed the seating card beside her plate. Reserved for Daniel's first love. The laughter around her blurred. The air felt heavy. Someone had done this on purpose. She wanted to leave, to disappear before the whispers began. But then, a shadow fell across her table. A man's voice, low, deliberate, brushed against her ear. "Act like you're with me." Her pulse stopped. She turned. He stood behind her, tall, composed, eyes too calm for a stranger. A faint smile curved his lips, but his gaze was sharp, assessing. Before she could speak, he took the seat beside her as if it belonged to him. "You look like you needed an escape," he murmured. She didn't answer. She couldn't. Every camera in the room seemed to turn toward them. The man slid his arm casually across the back of her chair, fingers grazing her shoulder. "Smile," he said softly. "Let them think you're with me." Her lips parted, confusion mixing with fear, but she obeyed. Daniel looked up from the dance floor and froze. The groom's expression cracked for just a second, enough for Lila to see it. Recognition, shock, and something else, a flash of fear. The stranger beside her lifted his glass, meeting Daniel's eyes across the room. "He knows who I am," the man whispered, just loud enough for her to hear. "And that," he said, "is exactly why you shouldn't move." Lila's fingers tightened around her glass, the stem pressing hard against her skin. "Who are you?" she whispered without looking at him. The man smiled faintly, eyes still locked on Daniel across the room. "Someone who just gave you the upper hand," he murmured. Her heart hammered. The orchestra played softly in the background, but the sound barely reached her. All she could hear was the hum of whispers spreading like wildfire. "She's with him? Who is he? He looks important." The stranger leaned closer, his breath brushing against her ear. "They're watching. Don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you break." His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it, the kind that didn't ask for trust. It demanded it. Lila forced a breath, the kind you take before walking through fire. "Fine," she said, forcing a smile so flawless it almost fooled herself. "But when this is over, I want answers." "You'll get them," he said, lifting his glass again. "When the timing's right." He clinked his champagne gently against hers. The sound rang out sharp and bright, slicing through the air, and every eye turned toward them again. The bride noticed. Daniel noticed. Lila held her posture, regal and untouchable. For the first time that evening, she wasn't the one being pitied. The stranger leaned back, still playing the part. "Good," he said quietly. "Now, laugh." She blinked. "Laugh?" "Yes, like I just told you something funny. Make him believe you've moved on." It was absurd, cruel even. But something in his tone, a quiet command wrapped in concern, made her obey. A small laugh escaped her lips, light and almost natural. Daniel's jaw tightened, his bride's smile faltered, and in that fleeting moment, Lila felt something she hadn't in years: power. The stranger turned his gaze back to her, eyes softening for the first time. "You just won your first battle," he said. "Against who?" she asked. "You'll see soon enough." He rose smoothly from his seat and adjusted his cufflinks. "Dance with me." Lila froze. "What?" "You heard me. If you leave now, they'll say you couldn't handle it. Let's give them a story they'll never forget." Before she could answer, he offered his hand, steady, waiting. Her instincts screamed to say no, but something in his expression, confidence mixed with quiet purpose, pulled her in. She stood, slipping her hand into his. The room fell silent for half a second, long enough for every camera to capture it. The music swelled. They moved together like they had rehearsed it all their lives. His hand on her back, guiding her effortlessly across the floor. Every turn, every step, deliberate, practiced, but not fake. She tried to ignore the eyes, the whispers, the heat of Daniel's stare. "You're surprisingly calm," she murmured. "Years of pretending," he replied. "You learn to control what they see." "So this is normal for you?" His lips curved slightly. "Being watched?" "Always." He spun her once, smoothly, then leaned close enough for her to catch the faint scent of his cologne, dark cedar, expensive, unforgettable. "You shouldn't have come here alone," he said quietly. "They were waiting to humiliate you." Her breath caught. "They?" "Your ex," he said, "and the people he works for." "What are you talking about?" His grip tightened just slightly. "Not here. Too many eyes." He twirled her again, whispering as she turned. "When this song ends, walk with me outside. Smile for now." The last note of the music lingered. Applause erupted around them. Lila smiled, heart pounding, as they walked toward the terrace doors, his hand still at the small of her back. Behind her, Daniel's stare burned into her like fire. The terrace doors closed, muffling the laughter inside. Night air, cold, silent. "Now," she said, finally turning to face him. "Start talking." He looked at her for a long moment, studying her face, her fear, her defiance. "You deserve to know," he said finally, "because whether you realize it or not, you're already part of this." The terrace was wrapped in silver moonlight, a quiet world away from the laughter echoing inside. Lila crossed her arms, her voice trembling just slightly. "Part of what?" The stranger didn't answer right away. He took a slow sip from his champagne, eyes scanning the garden below like a man too used to danger to ever relax. "You really have no idea, do you?" he said softly. "About what?" He turned to her then, eyes sharp, steady, unflinching. "About him. About what your ex has been doing since he left you." Lila frowned, shaking her head. "He's just a businessman. He runs some investment firm." The man's jaw tightened. "Investment, yes, but not the kind they write about in magazines." The words hung between them, dangerous and heavy. Lila laughed nervously. "You're talking in riddles. Who are you?" He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a low whisper. "Ethan Cross, CEO of Cross Holdings." She froze. Everyone in New York had heard that name. Billionaire, private, ruthless. "And why would a man like you be pretending to date a woman like me?" she asked. His lips curved faintly. "Because you just became the most important pawn in a game you didn't know existed." She stared at him, the night air suddenly colder. "Pawn?" "Your ex," Ethan said quietly, "has been selling confidential information and laundering it through charities, one of which is registered under your name." Lila's heart stopped. "What?" "The Lila Grace Foundation," he continued. "The one he helped you start. It's being investigated by the FBI." Her world tilted. The name of her foundation, something she thought was built on kindness, on giving, now twisted into something rotten. "That's impossible," she whispered. "He told me—" "He told you what you needed to believe," Ethan interrupted gently. "You're his alibi, his perfect cover." Silence. A single tear burned at the corner of her eye, but she blinked it away. "So what now?" she asked, voice trembling. "You expose him?" Ethan's eyes softened for the first time that night. "Not yet. That's where you come in." "Me?" "You're the one person he still underestimates," Ethan said. "And if we play this right, we can bring him down together." Lila's breath hitched. "Why me? Why do you even care?" His gaze lingered on her, unreadable. "Let's just say," he murmured, "your ex once made an enemy out of the wrong man." The wind shifted, rustling her hair. She felt the chill run down her spine, part fear, part intrigue. "So what's the plan?" she asked finally. Ethan smiled faintly, stepping closer until she felt the quiet hum of danger between them. "For tonight," he said, "we keep pretending. Tomorrow morning we begin the act of revenge." "Revenge? Not just for me," he said. "For you too." The terrace door creaked open. A flash of camera light. Someone had followed them. Ethan didn't flinch. He simply slipped an arm around her waist and pulled her closer. "Smile," he whispered. "Your ex is watching." Lila forced a smile, her heart pounding against his chest. "This is crazy," she muttered. "No," he said quietly. "This is just the beginning." The city was waking up. Taxis honking, sun bleeding through glass towers. But Lila's apartment felt like a war zone of emotions. She hadn't slept. Her phone buzzed non-stop with messages and notifications, photos from the wedding, comments, gossip threads already forming online. Who's the guy with Lila Grace? She really upgraded after Jason. That's Ethan Cross, isn't it? Lila scrolled in disbelief. One night, and her name was trending. Her ex had wanted her humiliated. Instead, she'd walked out on the arm of a billionaire. But under the flicker of satisfaction was something heavier. Ethan's words replayed in her head. "The foundation is being investigated. You're his cover." She paced her apartment, the morning light catching the single-framed photo she hadn't taken down. Her and Jason, smiling, back when she thought love meant trust. The doorbell rang. She jumped. When she opened the door, Ethan stood there, crisp in a charcoal suit, holding 2 coffees. "You look like you haven't slept," he said simply, walking past her as if he already owned the place. "That's because someone told me I might be an accessory to a federal crime," she snapped. Ethan set the coffees down on the counter, unfazed. "Then it's a good thing you've got me." "And who exactly are you, Ethan?" she asked, crossing her arms. "Because last night you were just a mysterious stranger in a tuxedo. This morning you're talking like you run the FBI. He looked at her then, eyes narrowing slightly. "I don't run the FBI, but I do own half of the companies they use for offshore tracing. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be." Silence. Then Ethan slid a thin envelope across the counter. "Inside," he said, "is everything you need to know about the Lila Grace Foundation, every account, every transaction, every name." Lila hesitated before picking it up. Her hands trembled as she pulled out the papers. The numbers were there, dates, transfers, amounts that made no sense. Her ex's signature appeared again and again, and then hers. "That's not possible," she whispered. "I never signed those." "He forged them," Ethan said quietly. "He's been using you for over a year. Your clean record made his dirty money look pure." Lila's throat tightened. "Why are you showing me this? Why help me at all?" Ethan leaned against the counter, gaze steady. "Because Jason Price stole something from me, too. Millions, and the trail leads through you." Her breath hitched. "So that's it? I'm just leverage?" "No," he said. "You're the only one who can get close to him without raising suspicion." Lila laughed bitterly. "You want me to spy on my ex?" Ethan tilted his head. "Let's call it balancing the scales." "And what happens if I refuse?" He smiled faintly. "You won't. Because if you don't clear your name, everything he did becomes your crime." The words hit like a blow. Lila sank onto the couch, staring at the papers. Her life, her reputation, her freedom, all tied to a man she once loved. Ethan stepped closer, his voice low but certain. "I'll protect you, Lila, but you have to trust me." She looked up at him, eyes full of doubt and fear. "Trust?" she whispered. "That word ruined me once." Ethan's expression softened. "Then let's redefine it." The city noise faded behind them. Only the ticking of the clock filled the silence. Then, 3 sharp knocks at the door. Lila froze. Ethan's gaze flicked toward the sound, his posture shifting instantly, alert, defensive. "Expecting anyone?" he asked quietly. She shook her head. Ethan nodded once, then reached inside his jacket. The faint glint of metal caught the light. "Stay behind me," he said. Lila's breath caught as the door handle turned. The door creaked open, slow, deliberate. Ethan's body blocked Lila from view as 2 men stepped inside, both in plain suits, both wearing the kind of calm that only comes from power or danger. The taller one flashed a badge. "FBI, we need to speak with Miss Lila Grace." Lila's heart dropped. Ethan didn't move an inch. "About what?" "Who are you?" the agent countered. "A friend," Ethan said flatly. "And unless you have a warrant, that door's staying open." The agent hesitated. "We have questions about recent transactions linked to the Lila Grace Foundation. There's evidence of international wire transfers." "She hasn't done anything wrong," Ethan cut in. "You're barking up the wrong account." The second agent glanced at him. Recognition flickered. "Ethan Cross?" The taller one stiffened. "The investor?" Ethan smiled without warmth. "Good. Then you know who you're talking to, which means you know I don't appreciate intimidation at 8 a.m. The agents exchanged a look, then handed Lila a business card. "Call us when you're ready to cooperate, Miss Grace." They left as quietly as they came. When the door shut, Lila turned to Ethan. "What was that?" He exhaled, slow. "A warning shot." "A warning shot? They just said my name like I'm some kind of criminal." "Because Jason made you one," Ethan said. "On paper." "Then fix it," she snapped. You have all this power, all this money. Can't you make it go away? He stepped closer. If I could erase your name without erasing you, I would. But there's something deeper going on. He didn't just use you for his charity. He used you to funnel money into offshore accounts owned by the Cardini Group. Who are they? Ethan's jaw tightened. The people I've been trying to take down for 5 years. Lila froze. You're saying Jason's working with them? Not just working with them, Ethan said. He's protecting them. And now, you're their liability. The silence thickened. The hum of the city outside felt suddenly far away. Lila's hands shook. Why would he do this to me? After everything? Ethan's voice softened, almost pitying. Because you were the one person who'd never question him, the one person whose trust he could weaponize. Lila stared at the floor, tears gathering but refusing to fall. Then what now? She asked quietly. Ethan's eyes darkened. Now, we make him regret it. She looked up, startled by the steel in his voice. You sound like you've done this before. I have, he said. But this time, it's personal. He reached into his pocket and slid a sleek black phone across the table. What's this? She asked. A new number, secure line. Use it only when you need me. You're just leaving? For now, he said, heading for the door. There are people who'll start watching you, friends of your ex, reporters, maybe worse. Act normal, go to work, but don't answer calls from unknown numbers. And if they show up again? Ethan paused, hand on the doorknob. Then call me, before you open it. The door closed. Silence swallowed the apartment. Lila stood there, holding the phone like it was ticking. Somewhere outside, a car engine started, low, steady, waiting. She walked to the window and pulled the curtain just enough to peek out. A black sedan idled at the curb, 2 men inside, neither looking her way, but both there, watching. Lila stepped back, pulse pounding. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message read, "You shouldn't have talked to him." Lila's thumb hovered over the screen. The text glared up at her like a curse. You shouldn't have talked to him. Her apartment suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier, the ticking clock louder. She backed away from the window, phone clutched tight, heart thudding so hard she could hear it in her ears. For a moment she thought of calling Ethan. Then another message came through. We see you. Lila's breath caught. She dropped the phone like it burned her. She ran to the window again, but the sedan was gone, vanished, like it had never been there. She grabbed the black phone Ethan gave her, her hands trembling as she unlocked it. Ethan, secure line. She hit call. It rang once, twice, then his voice, low, controlled. Say nothing until you're sure you're alone. I am, she whispered. They texted me. Read it. It said I shouldn't have talked to you. And then, we see you. A pause, then Ethan's tone sharpened. Pack a small bag, essentials only. Nothing digital, no laptop, no personal phone. What? Where am I supposed to go? Somewhere safe. I'll text you an address. Don't take your car and don't look back. Ethan, what is happening? They've realized you're not just a name on paper anymore. Meaning what? Meaning, he said, they're cleaning house. The line went dead. 20 minutes later, Lila was on the subway, hood pulled low, clutching a worn duffel bag. The world moved around her, commuters scrolling, kids laughing, oblivious to the storm closing in. She tried not to cry, tried not to imagine Jason, somewhere out there, living his new life, while hers was unraveling one threat at a time. The address Ethan sent led to the Upper West Side, a nondescript brownstone, nothing fancy, except for the silence that surrounded it. She buzzed. The door unlocked instantly. Ethan was waiting inside, this time no suit. Just a dark sweater, sleeves rolled, eyes tired but alert. They texted again? He asked. She shook her head. No, but they knew where I lived. Of course they did, he said quietly. Jason gave them everything. Why would he? Because he thinks he's untouchable. He's not. Ethan motioned her upstairs. The apartment above looked like something out of a spy film, minimal, clean, but with cameras tucked in corners and screens showing street angles outside. You've done this before, she said. Too many times, he admitted. He tapped a keyboard. One of the feeds zoomed in, a sedan parked 3 blocks away. Same one. Same men. They're not subtle, Ethan said, which means they're trying to scare you into silence. Lila stared at the screen. And if I don't stay silent? Then we flip the game, he said, and you become the hunter. Later that night, the two of them sat across from each other at a table covered in documents, ledgers, receipts, the trail of Jason's deceit. You were the face, Ethan explained. The charity's clean accountant. Every illegal transaction ran through your trust fund and payroll signature. He used you to wash millions. Lila's voice cracked. I never saw any of this. That's why it worked. You're too honest to question it. She rubbed her temples. I just wanted to help people. Now I'm the headline in a scandal I didn't even create. Not yet, Ethan said, his voice calm but certain. We'll write the ending ourselves. What ending? The one where Jason Price loses everything he stole, starting with his freedom. Lila looked up. You sound like this is personal. Ethan's jaw flexed. His silence said more than words. Then she saw it, the smallest scar near his temple, faded but visible under the light. He did something to you, didn't he? Ethan looked away. He did something to someone I loved. The clock ticked. The hum of the city outside felt miles away. Who? Lila whispered. He met her eyes, pain flickering beneath the steel. My sister. For a long moment, Lila didn't speak. Ethan's eyes stayed locked on the table, on the papers between them, the evidence of everything Jason had built on lies. Your sister, Lila finally said. What happened to her? Ethan exhaled slowly. She worked for him, years ago, back when he was expanding the foundation. She was brilliant, smarter than most of the men he hired. He made her head of international grants. That sounds like a promotion, Ethan interrupted. But it wasn't. It was a trap. He leaned back, staring somewhere far away. When the government started auditing the grants, Jason blamed her, claimed she'd fabricated documents, moved funds offshore. She lost everything. Her job, her reputation. And 2 months later, Lila's throat tightened. She's gone, isn't she? Ethan's voice dropped to a whisper. They found her car at the pier. No body, just her phone. Open to a text that said, I'm sorry. The silence that followed was suffocating. Lila's hands trembled. Ethan, Don't, he said, standing. Don't apologize for him. Just help me take him down. Lila swallowed hard. How? Ethan turned to her, eyes sharp again, back to the strategist. You're going to make him trust you again. Get inside the circle. And this time, you won't be the one being watched. You'll be the one watching. 2 days later, Lila found herself standing outside the Meridian Group, Jason's sleek glass headquarters overlooking Central Park. Her reflection in the glass doors barely looked like her. Calm, confident, a woman who didn't look like she'd been hiding in a safe house 48 hours ago. Inside, she moved past the front desk. Appointment with Mr. Price, she said, steady voice, flawless smile. Jason's assistant, a young man with an expensive watch and a nervous energy, led her into a corner office that looked more like a gallery than a workspace. And there he was, Jason Price. The man who once whispered promises across her skin now sat behind a mahogany desk, signing papers that could ruin lives. He looked up, surprise flashing across his face before morphing into a practiced smirk. Lila, he said, standing. Well, this is unexpected. I needed closure, she said. Closure, he echoed, as if tasting the word. Funny, I thought that's what weddings were for. Her smile didn't falter. I didn't come to fight, just to talk. He gestured for her to sit. About what? About the foundation, she said, her tone casual. There are things that don't add up. I thought maybe we could clear the air before others start asking questions. For a split second, something flickered in his eyes. Guilt? Fear? Then the mask returned. Others? He asked. You mean the feds? Lila's pulse spiked. You really shouldn't read the news so much, he added with a laugh. You'll start believing everything they print. So you're saying it's false? She asked, tilting her head. Jason smiled. I'm saying people love a scandal, and a woman scorned is an easy headline. Lila's fingernails dug into her palm beneath the table. I'd be careful with that tone, she said softly. It sounds like you're underestimating me. Again. He leaned back, amused. And what are you going to do, Lila? Audit me? No, she said, standing. Watch you. His smirk faltered for half a breath, then returned. Always were dramatic. She turned toward the door, then paused, looking over her shoulder. You should know, she said, her voice calm but deadly precise. Not every secret stays buried forever. Jason frowned slightly. What's that supposed to mean? Lila smiled faintly. Ask the Cardenas. His hand froze mid-air. The color drained from his face. Lila didn't wait for a response. She walked out, heels sharp against the marble floor, pulse racing. Outside the building, she slipped into the crowd. Her phone buzzed. Ethan. Did he take the bait? Lila typed back. He's rattled. Ethan. Good. Then he'll make a mistake, and when he does, we'll be waiting. But what Lila didn't see, what neither of them did, was the woman standing at the cafe across the street, watching her through tinted glasses, a woman with the same eyes as Ethan, alive. The woman at the cafe stirred her coffee slowly, eyes never leaving Lila's reflection in the glass. A small scar traced the edge of her jaw, the same one Ethan had, only mirrored. When Lila disappeared into the crowd, the woman smiled faintly and spoke into a small earpiece. He's not working alone anymore. A distorted voice replied, Stay close. We're not ready for him to know you're alive. She watched the sidewalk where Lila had stood, her fingers tightening around the cup. He thinks I'm dead, she murmured. Let's keep it that way, for now. That night in Ethan's safe house, the glow from the monitors washed his face in pale blue. He was tracking Jason's calls, transactions, movements, every detail lined up, except one. Someone else was funding Jason, someone invisible. Lila sat nearby, curled up on the couch with a cup of tea, exhaustion etched in her face. You've been staring at those screens for hours, she said softly. There's something off, Ethan muttered. He's being protected. The files point to a secondary account, offshore. But whoever owns it knew exactly how to hide their digital footprint. You mean like you? She asked. He glanced at her, not offended but intrigued. Exactly like me. The phone buzzed. An encrypted alert flashed across his main screen. Ethan's face darkened. What is it? Lila asked. A breach, he said, typing fast. Someone just accessed my private network. Can you stop them? Trying. He froze. A single message appeared on his terminal. You're chasing ghosts, Ethan. Some of us don't stay dead. Lila leaned closer. Who would? But Ethan had already stood, pale, staring at the screen as if it had spoken her name. No, he whispered. It can't be. Who? My sister. But you said, I know what I said, he snapped, then caught himself. His voice softened. They told me she was gone. I saw the report, the car, the note. So she's alive? He sank into his chair. If this message is from her, then she's not just alive. She's in deep, possibly working with them. With Jason? Or above him, Ethan said. Which is worse? Hours later, Lila couldn't sleep. She wandered to the kitchen, the city lights stretching endlessly below the window. Ethan was still at the computer, staring at a frozen frame on one of the surveillance feeds, a woman leaving Jason's building. The image was grainy, but her profile was clear. Lila's breath caught. "Is that her?" Ethan nodded slowly. "Sophie Cross." "She doesn't look like she's hiding," Lila whispered. "No," Ethan said. "She looks like she's running the show." He turned toward her, expression unreadable. "Which means everything we thought we knew just changed." Across town, in a high-rise penthouse overlooking the East River, Sophie Cross, alive, sharp, and utterly composed, stood beside Jason Price. "You didn't tell me you saw her," Sophie said. Jason stiffened. "You mean Lila? She showed up out of nowhere." "That's not what I asked." He hesitated. "She mentioned the Cardenas." Sophie's eyes darkened. "Then she's been talking to Ethan." Jason frowned. "I thought you wanted him distracted." "Distracted, yes. Aware, no," she said. "There's a difference." She walked to the window, staring out at the city lights. "If he learns I'm alive before I'm ready, he'll burn the world to find me." Jason swallowed hard. "So what do we do?" Sophie smiled, slow, deliberate. "We remind him what loss feels like." Back at the safe house, Ethan's phone buzzed again. A photo. He opened it and froze. Lila's apartment. Door kicked in, room ransacked, a note pinned to the wall. "Round 2 starts now." Ethan looked up sharply, scanning the security feeds. "Pack your things," he said. "Why? What happened?" "They're not just after you anymore," he said, voice low. "They're after me." Rain hammered against the windows of the safe house, a constant hiss that drowned out the hum of the city below. Ethan's movements were sharp, mechanical. Phone, files, flash drive, gun. Lila stood frozen by the couch, clutching her coat. "Ethan, what do you mean they're after you?" He didn't answer at first. He was staring at the photo on his phone again, her apartment torn apart, her life dismantled like it meant nothing. "They know where I am," he finally said, "which means someone inside my circle sold me out." "Your circle?" she asked, voice trembling. "Who is your circle?" Ethan zipped up his duffel bag, met her eyes, and said quietly, "People who make powerful men disappear." They left through the service elevator. Ethan's SUV was parked in the shadows behind the building, rainwater glistening across the black hood. As the city lights blurred behind them, Lila finally spoke. "That woman in the photo, Sophie, that's your sister, right?" His jaw tightened. "Was. She looked alive to me." He exhaled through his nose. "She was supposed to be gone. 3 years ago, a car crash. But if she's working with Jason, then she's been playing me since the beginning." "The beginning of what?" "Everything," he said. "The night we met wasn't an accident, Lila." She turned toward him slowly. "What are you saying?" "You were on a list." Her breath caught. "A list?" "Clients, partners, liabilities. People Jason and my sister wanted gone quietly. You were next." "Me?" she whispered. "Why?" "Because you found something you shouldn't have. The audit, the Cayman Trail. You linked the wrong names together, and now they think you can expose them." Lila felt her pulse hammer in her ears. "You knew. You knew I was in danger from the start." Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Yes." Silence filled the car, heavy, suffocating. "So what was this?" she asked bitterly. "Some kind of charity? You just swooped in to save the poor accountant from the big bad wolf?" "No." His voice softened. "I swooped in because I didn't want them to win again." "Again?" "They took Sophie from me once," he said. "I wasn't going to let them take you too." The SUV stopped suddenly. Ethan leaned forward, staring through the rain-streaked windshield. A car blocked the narrow alley ahead, black sedan, tinted windows, engine still running. "Stay down," he said. He opened the glove box, pulled out a small black device, and pressed a button. The streetlights flickered once, then went dark. "What did you just do?" Lila whispered. "Level the playing field." Two figures stepped out of the sedan, silhouetted by the dim red glow of their taillights. Ethan moved fast, one hand on Lila's shoulder, the other reaching beneath his jacket. "When I say run," he murmured, "you run, and don't look back." "Ethan, promise me." She nodded, barely breathing. The passenger raised something, a phone. Its screen flashed once, and then Ethan froze. A photo filled the screen. Lila and Ethan together, sitting at a cafe that afternoon, time stamped, geotagged. "They've been tracking us," he whispered. The driver spoke, voice muffled by the rain. "Ethan Cross, Lila Bennett, you're both coming with us." Ethan's grip tightened around the gun, but before he could aim, the street behind them exploded in white light. A third vehicle roared into view, slamming into the sedan. Lila screamed as the impact shook the ground, metal screeching, alarms blaring. "Go!" Ethan shouted, grabbing her hand. They ran, down the alley, through the smoke, hearts pounding, shoes slipping on wet asphalt. Behind them, flames lit the night like a warning. When they finally stopped, hidden beneath an overpass, Ethan turned to Lila, drenched, shaking, but alive. She looked up at him, eyes wide. "Who the hell are they?" Ethan's face hardened. "They're not after you anymore," he said. "They're after us." Across town, Sophie Cross watched the scene unfold from a secure feed. Jason stood beside her, pale and silent. "That wasn't part of the plan," he said. "Plans change," Sophie replied coldly. "He's moving faster than I thought." "Then what now?" She smiled faintly, eyes never leaving the screen. "Now," she said, "we remind Ethan that every move he makes, I taught him first." The underpass smelled of oil and rain, a hollow, echoing space where the city's heartbeat seemed distant. Lila shivered, her hair clinging to her face. Ethan was pacing, muttering to himself, phone in hand, trying to connect to a secure network that kept failing. "They're jamming the signal," he said. "Whoever's behind this has reach, federal-grade tech, maybe even government access." "You mean your sister?" Lila said quietly. He stopped pacing. The sound of her voice seemed to hang in the air like smoke. "Maybe," he said, eyes darkening, "or whoever she's working for." A train rattled overhead, drowning their words for a moment. When it passed, Lila spoke again. "You said earlier that I was on some kind of list. How many people were on it?" 16, Ethan said. "Accountants, lawyers, analysts, people who got too close to the wrong accounts." "And how many are still alive?" Ethan looked away. 3. The silence after that was worse than the noise. "So," Lila said slowly, "what's the plan now?" "We find proof," Ethan said. "Enough to expose Jason, and enough to pull Sophie into the light. Once the truth's out, they can't touch you. And if we fail, then they bury us both." They left the underpass an hour later after the rain had thinned to mist. Ethan led her through side streets until they reached a warehouse on the edge of Brooklyn, one of his safe sites, sealed under a fake import company. Inside, the space was cold and dim, lit by a single desk lamp and the soft hum of a server tower. "You live here?" Lila asked. "I survive here," he said. He began unpacking drives, cables, encrypted tablets, a full-scale digital war room. "I need to see Jason's next move," he murmured. "He'll think we're running scared. That's when he makes mistakes." "And Sophie?" Ethan hesitated, glancing at a small metal box tucked beneath the desk. "If I know her," he said quietly, "she's already made hers." Hours passed. Lila dozed off on a couch as Ethan worked through lines of code. Then, a faint ping. His screen flashed. "Access granted. Cardini Archives, active session detected." Ethan straightened, heart pounding. Someone was in the Cardini servers, right now. He began tracing the signal. "Come on," he whispered. "Show me where you are." The coordinates loaded, the Grand Plaza Hotel. Lila stirred. What's happening? They're moving files out of the Cardini accounts. Tonight. The plaza. That's where we first met, she said. Ethan looked at her, and in his eyes something shifted. Then it's where this ends. The Grand Plaza, 2:43 a.m. The ballroom was empty now, stripped of music and laughter, replaced with shadows and servers disguised as catering equipment. Jason Price stood by the window, speaking into his phone. Yes, everything's being transferred now. Cayman, Zurich, Singapore, it's clean. He turned as Sophie entered, dressed in a tailored black coat, her expression unreadable. He's coming, she said simply. Jason frowned. Ethan? He found the access point. You wanted him drawn out. Congratulations. You sound nervous. Sophie stepped closer, her voice low. He's my brother. You don't corner Ethan Cross unless you're ready for him to bite back. Down in the loading bay, Ethan and Lila slipped through a side door, silent and fast. You take the lower level, Ethan said. If anything happens, use the service exit. Don't wait for me. I'm not leaving you, she whispered. This isn't a movie, Lila. If I get caught, then I'll get caught with you. For a moment he just stared at her, as if trying to memorize the way she looked in that instant. Then he nodded. Fine, but stay close. Upstairs, Jason's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen, a security alert. Camera 3. Motion detected. They're here, he said. Sophie didn't move. Her gaze drifted toward the dark hallway beyond the ballroom doors. Then it's time, she said softly. For what? For him to see the truth. She walked toward the hallway, heels echoing on marble, voice carrying just enough for the cameras to hear. Come on, Ethan. Let's finish what we started. The Grand Plaza was silent. Too silent. The chandeliers swayed slightly from the draft of a cracked window. Lila's heels clicked faintly on the marble floor as she followed Ethan through the dark corridor. Every sound echoed like a heartbeat. From somewhere above, faint voices drifted. Jason's sharp and nervous, Sophie's calm, commanding. Ethan raised his hand, signaling her to stop. Stay behind me, he whispered. They reached the ballroom doors. Ethan pushed one open, just enough to see inside. Sophie stood at the center of the room. Alone, no Jason, no guards, just her, surrounded by glowing server racks and the soft hum of machines transferring millions of dollars into nothingness. I knew you'd come, she said, without turning around. Ethan stepped forward slowly. So it's true.